Suddenly, out of nowhere, X Detachment.
Erschieße sie alle!
A present from the regiment. X Detachment. After a successful manhunt, X Detachment managed to capture Major von Holstein, an officer of the local anti-partisan task force. Von Holstein has knowledge of the status and location of Jedburgh Team Percy, with whom X Detachment were to rendezvous the previous evening. Whisking the Major away to their secret camp a few miles distant, Captain Hedley promptly interrogates him. The Major divulges all immediately, without any of the men even raising so much as a hand.
It's simple, really. I told him if he didn't spill his guts, I'd hand him over to the resistance. He knows they'd treat him less civilly than our chaps in the SOE. They'd literally spill his guts, slowly and painfully. Turns out the executive officer and the radio man both died in the course of the Germans' raid on their hideout, but the commander, Lieutenant Smith, was caught and transported to a nearby SD camp for interrogation and execution. Our mission is clear. We must head to that camp and rescue Lieutenant Smith forthwith, with Lieutenant McLean laid up and most of the detachment out on reconnaissance duties. I'll have to personally lead this mission myself. Right, Sergeant Levine.
Reporting for duty, sir.
Jenkins, Wallace.
Sir? Ready, sir.
Duckworth and Kettlebottom, you've all volunteered. Let's get mobile.
You heard the captain. Grab your kit and get to your blitz buggies, boys. The team mount their jeeps and drive into the night. Off-road, lights diced. But the trip is a short one as the party encounter enemy forces in an agitated state in the fields ahead. The captain sends forth 2 of his men to recce. And 15 minutes later, they return with a German prisoner in tow. After a brisk interrogation, he reveals that his platoon was sent to recapture an escaped British prisoner of war. A man en route to a nearby SD camp for interrogation and execution. If found, however, he is not to be allowed to escape again upon pain of death. Sergeant Levine returns with his reconnaissance report. Got 2 buildings in the AO. The closest appears to be a dairy of some sort. Enclosing the area is the usual assortment of Normandy bocage, line of sight obstructing. Beyond the dairy I could just make out what looked like wheat fields, bleeding tall. Now, in my opinion, if I was trying to give Jerry the slip, that's the path I'd take. I thought I saw the silhouette of a lorry. Dunno, maybe it was a transport. There's another building across the road, smaller than the dairy. Looked like a shed or something.
Very good. What about enemy personnel?
I distinctly heard the dulcet tones of a Jerry officer barking out orders to his men. Didn't see him though. Speaking of barking, I reckon we've got a couple of hounds on the prowl. Didn't see them either. What I did see was the glint in the moonlight of the gorgets of those, what they called, Feld gendarmes. Plenty more lights and noise in the distance. Numbers unknown. Jerry's giving these fields a proper scouring.
Yes. Well then, we'll have to advance with the utmost of caution, eh? Come on, chaps.
The men proceed on foot. the Germans set up a patrol route around the dairy. The patrollers move in a clockwise motion. They eschew the use of their electric torches to remain hidden. Assigned to the patrol route are both of the dog handlers. Their furry sentinels will sniff out unseen intruders, and the naturally suspicious fell gendarmes follow suit, while the officer roams at will, ready to catch any interloper off guard. The British forces infiltrate the battlefield via the southwest corner of the area of operations, and prepare 2 escape routes for quick exfiltration back to their jeeps. Lieutenant Smith starts a long way from his comrades, with several enemies between him and escape. And so the encounter begins, with the defenders actively searching for enemies, but as yet unaware of their presence. Time passes, and opportunities for tactical advantages present themselves for the attackers. But fate may prove to favor neither side in particular. Time will tell. Captain Hedley leads his men from the front. He peers into the darkness. The red glow of the soldier's cigarette gives him away. Wasting no time, he takes aim. One less enemy to worry about.
Go on, boy, you're free now. Shove off. Scat. Good boy.
The German officer begins his inspection of the wheat field. Time waits for no man, and the longer the attackers linger, the more likely their presence will be revealed to the ever-watchful defenders. The felled gendarmes walk their beat in silence, mindful of potential enemies. Smith begins his nerve-wracking and arduous journey across the enemy-infested fields. A long way to go.
Ich weiß, dass du irgendwo hier bist.
The dog and his handler march past their officer and look on with interest. Has he found something? Best not to disturb him. Duckworth and Kettlebottom make their entrance.
Been meaning to ask you, Kettlebottom, where are you from?
I'm from Shitterton. You?
Wet Wang.
Don't sound like no wet wang local to me.
Quiet, heads up. Jerry.
The attackers are doubtlessly in for an unpleasant surprise. Hedley continues to sneak forwards. He must dispose of that body before it is discovered.
Ich werde dich finden.
Jenkins and Wallace approach from the west, senses keen.
I trust you didn't tuck into the beans before the mission, Wallace. Eh? What's it to you? Well, I mean, we're supposed to be stealthy like. Oh, what's that supposed to mean? Such a noise. You hear that? Sounds like your mum with a new ship full of sailors drops anchor.
Sergeant Levine joins his men.
Coming up behind yous.
Aye, that's what the sailors say too.
Oh, you want a smack in the teeth then, Jock?
Time, it seems, draws all present inexorably towards a sudden and violent climax.
Climax? Jenkins' mum knows all about.
Shut it. Suddenly, the direction of the patrol reverses.
Here, you think that growling's meant for us?
Well, it's no me belly.
Hedley arrives at the sentry's body and, casting about, finds an old sack in which to stuff him into.
I believe the Germans would call this Raumeffizienten.
Being too far from the recent disturbance noted by the dog and his handler, the officer continues further afield.
Wo bist du, mein kleines Hund?
Ich wäre lieber in Paris.
Schweigen.
All right, quietly now, you cack-footed jock. Suspicions are allayed momentarily.
Indoors, yeah? Ach, it's locked. Give it the old evo, eh?
But the dairy has been vacated for some time, quite dusty. Cheers, mate. Their ingress remarkably goes unnoticed.
Etwas riechen, Knuddelbär?
Hedley forcefully but quietly enters the building. The German officer's wanderings bring him closer to his quarry, who unwittingly pads quietly to where the German waits. Sergeant Levine takes cover behind the barrel. All remains quiet and calm for now. The dog picks up a foreign scent. Levine keeps still, though ready with gun in hand. The hind's piercing barks arouse the suspicions of the rest of the searchers in the nearby vicinity. Hedley attempts to salvage the situation and takes aim. But did he bring enough ammunition?
I play dead. Well, it's said that all dogs go to heaven.
The officer's attention is turned to the ruckus by the building.
Was ist das für ein Krach?
In his haste to inspect the disturbance, he gives his presence away. He carefully observes the building.
Ow, you Mackie Scotch git!
Sorry, mate, never beans. Using the diversion as an opportunity to gain ground, Smith gives away his position. But makes himself scarce just as quickly. He notes the presence of the preoccupied enemy officer. Levine shifts to better observe the enemy. Being you mug. However, his presence is still noted too.
Ja, Männer, schaut zum Fenster. Jawohl.
Sprung.
God's sake, man, get down.
Discovered, and now with nothing to lose, Wallace tears into the enemy.
Hey, lad, Jerry! Oh, yeah!
The fell gendarme is stunned by the enemy's ferocious attack. Alerted by the sounds of battle, men from further afield come hastening forward. The German sergeant is ready for anything. The stunned soldier recovers a little, but is still paralyzed with fear.
Schweinhund!
Goodness.
British commando, you are surrounded. Surrender immediately.
Ignoring the enemy's demands, Hedley takes aim at the remaining fell gendarme. The defenders' numbers are thinning out, but reserves come to replace them with great speed. Luckily for the sergeant, no one is close enough to notice his clamorous advance. Captain Hedley repositions slightly and takes aim at his enemy counterpart. but the officer is ready.
Du Teufel! This is how you British respond to clemency? Pig?
Oh, I know all about your clemency, Fritz.
More defenders come rushing to the firefight. And yet more Germans come pouring in.
Wo ist der Feind?
Ich weiß nicht. Bleib in Bewegung.
Jenkins takes aim at the indistinct enemy shape lurking in the darkness.
No, you're off by 3 degrees. Aim higher.
I taught you to shoot, Helen Keller.
Can't bloody eat what I can't bloody see.
Is there no end to the German reinforcements?
Schnell, schnell.
Smith decides the time is right to launch his attack. He boldly strides forward. Then takes aim at the enemy officer's back. Silently, he clears the way for his escape. Coordinating with his brothers in arms, Levine sneaks deeper into unknown territory. Coast seems clear. Lieutenant Smith continues his escape. One of the reserves takes a pot shot at the dairy.
Ich weiß, dass du da drin bist.
Levine attempts to melt into the shadows, but is thwarted by a freak moonbeam. You're having a laugh. Hedley recedes deeper into the gloomy depths of the building and seemingly disappears. Catching Levine's silhouette in the moonlight, the German sergeant rushes to inspect. But Levine spots him and readies his SMG. Duckworth and Kettlebottom shuffle closer to the action. No enemies in sight.
Auf wen schießt du?
Quick on the draw, Levine levels his Sten at the enemy sergeant. Peekaboo. That one's for the lads of the 5th Parachute Brigade. The Feldgendarme keeps pouring fire on the building ahead. Too close for comfort, Levine keeps stealthily forging ahead. His presence is detected by Smith, who hisses out a challenge.
Lester,
Square. Who goes there?
you're fast.
George Bleeding Formby of the Salvation Army.
I see. Well, my name is Albert Smith.
Jedburgh T. Percy, I know. Captain Hedley wants a word with you.
Hedley? Jolly good. Lead on.
With no clear targets available, the soldiers press forward to the mustering grounds. Smith hastens to his newfound friend.
Be there in a jiffy.
The Feldgendarme carefully aims at one of the windows and snaps off 2 shots in rapid succession.
Wallace, I say, watch out!
Tell my wife I love Aston Villa. The Germans finally take their toll on the British attackers.
Aston Villa? You're from Aberdeen, mate.
Lieutenant Smith keeps sneaking towards freedom. The escape route is within reach now. The sentries charge as fast as they can at the building housing their enemies, and consequently give their position away.
I see you, you murdering gits.
Jenkins, pick up Wallace and exfiltrate.
But Jenkins' heart is full of rage. He has a mind to exact revenge instead. His training takes over, however.
As you say, sir.
He guides Smith to the escape route.
Psst! This way, Lieutenant. Hello there.
Levine sprays the recently arrived troops with hot lead. One down. The trauma of combat can be too much to bear.
Los, los, los! Ich höre Schüsse.
Yet more German reinforcements join the battle. But are they too late?
Bewegen, bewegen! Kommt zur Party, Kameraden.
I'll put you out of your misery, Fritz.
And another German soldier falls prey to Hedley's deadly aim. Levine makes a dash for the exit. Rather noisily. With no immediate threats present, the sentries turn to searching about at random.
nichts.
Smith makes the final push to leave the area and exits the battle, unseen, unheard.
Goodbye.
With their comrades safely away, the rest of the team exfiltrate the battlefield.
Captain, package secure. It's time we go Tango Foxtrot Oscar.
They leave the bewildered German sentries searching for ghosts.